world had always known that Earth was not alone in the universe. For years, scientists had sent signals into the vast unknown, hoping for a response, but no one had ever expected this. The day came when humanity realized that the stars above were not just distant lights. They were the eyes of the universe watching. It began with a strange message. At first, people dismissed it as another hoax, another odd transmission from deep space. But when the broadcast continued for days, it was impossible to ignore. The aliens had arrived not in person, but through their words. A deep, cold voice echoed through every communication device on Earth, speaking directly to humanity. "You are weak. You are insignificant. Your world is a shadow of what it could be," the voice said. It wasn't a single message, but a constant stream of ridicule. Every country, every citizen heard it. The voice mocked Earth's achievements, laughed at humanity's mistakes, and called the planet a primitive backwater. At first, people were confused. Was this a joke, a test? But as the days passed, the tone became sharper, more mocking. The aliens seemed to know everything about Earth, even its history, its struggles. They made fun of the way humans had built cities, how they destroyed their environment, and how they believed themselves to be the rulers of the planet. They laughed at human wars, pointing out how humanity had never learned from its mistakes. Governments scrambled to respond. Was this an act of war? Was it a threat? But the aliens didn't seem interested in any formal reply. They didn't care about Earth's leaders or its armies. They didn't need to. Their technology was far beyond anything Earth could imagine. No military force on the planet stood a chance against their power. The voice didn't just speak. It broadcasted images too. Images of Earth distorted and ugly, showing the worst of human civilization. Cities drowning in floods, forests burning, entire species driven to extinction. The message was clear. Your planet is dying, and you have no one to blame but yourselves. Fear began to rise. How could Earth respond to something like this? The aliens weren't asking for peace or negotiations. They were simply telling Earth how insignificant it was. And as the ridicule grew louder, so did humanity's sense of helplessness. People gathered in the streets, staring at the sky, hoping for something, anything, to make this stop. But there was nothing. The mocking continued for weeks. At first, governments tried to ignore it, but as the message became more personal, more pointed, the anger grew. It wasn't just the message that hurt. It was the aliens' complete disdain for humanity. They didn't see Earth as a threat, nor did they consider it worth their time. Earth was nothing to them. The mocking words felt like slaps to the face. And it wasn't just the aliens talking anymore. It was every human who heard the broadcasts, all wondering why they hadn't noticed how close they were to being irrelevant in the grand scheme of the universe. Scientists and diplomats were suddenly faced with the unthinkable. The possibility that Earth was truly powerless in the face of an advanced alien civilization. For centuries, humanity had looked to the stars with hope, with ambition, but now it seemed like those very stars were mocking them. Earth had always dreamed of being part of something greater, but now it was clear. The universe saw Earth as nothing more than a joke. As the ridicule continued, people began to ask themselves, why hadn't Earth fought back? Why hadn't they been prepared for something like this? Was humanity truly as weak as the aliens believed? Were they really just another small planet in a galaxy full of greater beings, doomed to be ignored and ridiculed forever? The sense of hopelessness spread like wildfire. People who once believed in the greatness of humanity began to question everything. There was no grand army to call upon, no great weapon that could change the tides. Earth's greatest strength had always been its people, but now that felt like a lie. But even in the face of ridicule, humanity didn't fall silent. Though their hands were tied and their technology was dwarfed by the aliens, something stirred deep within them. The world was angry, hurt, and confused, but they were not yet defeated. They still had one thing left, their will to fight. And for some, that was enough to hold on to. For now, the mocking voice would continue. The alien invaders seemed to take delight in the suffering they caused. But Earth had always risen from its darkest moments. Perhaps, just perhaps, this time would be no different. The mocking had grown unbearable. For weeks, Earth had been subjected to the cold, demeaning voice of the aliens. Cities across the globe buzzed with tension, uncertainty hanging thick in the air like a storm cloud. The ridicule from the alien invaders had not just been an attack on the planet's systems. It had pierced the heart of humanity itself. The mocking voice, now a constant presence, had become a symbol of humanity's weakness, of their failure to protect their own world. As the alien messages grew louder, More direct and more hurtful, it became clear that Earth's leaders were out of options. No one had answers, no one had solutions. Military responses had been dismissed as futile, and diplomatic attempts had been crushed before they even began. It was impossible to ignore the truth. The aliens were simply too advanced, too powerful for anything Earth had. The world's leaders were left sitting in silence, unsure of what to do next. But this sense of powerlessness didn't just affect the governments. It swept through the population. People who had once been proud to be part of humanity were now questioning their place in the universe. They had always thought of themselves as the dominant force on Earth. They had built cities, advanced technology, and explored their world. But all of that seemed meaningless now in the face of this alien force. They had no answers, no defense. The alien invaders weren't just mocking. They were playing with humanity. They manipulated the weather, sending storms crashing down on entire continents, leaving people helpless. Earth's delicate systems were falling apart at an alarming rate. Hurricanes tore through the coasts, earthquakes shattered cities, and droughts turned fertile lands into barren deserts. All the while, the alien voice laughed, taunting humanity for their inability to control the chaos they had once mastered. It wasn't just the destruction that cut deep. It was the feeling of being utterly insignificant. Earth had once held its own in the grand story of the universe, believing itself to be special, unique. But now that belief was being stripped away layer by layer. The aliens had reduced humanity to nothing more than a joke. They were nothing but ants beneath the boots of a higher power. And the worst part was that it was becoming clear that there was no way to fight back. It wasn't long before Earth's leaders were forced into action. They could no longer pretend that everything would return to normal. The storms were too powerful, the destruction too widespread. The fabric of civilization was beginning to unravel, and people were starting to panic. But there was no time to waste on fear. Earth needed a response, something that could show the aliens that humanity was not as weak as they seemed to think. Scientists around the world began working together. The old rivalries between nations faded into the background as humanity faced a common enemy. It was their last hope. As the weather worsened, and the aliens continued their relentless mockery, the world's greatest minds focused on finding a solution. Any solution that could stop the aliens' destruction. They looked to the past for answers. Ancient civilizations like the Mayans and Egyptians had understood the power of the Earth itself. They had mastered the forces of nature in ways that modern technology couldn't replicate. In their desperation, Earth's brightest scientists began to reverse engineer the old techniques, combining them with the most advanced technology available. The answer came in the form of an ancient concept: energy, harnessed directly from the Earth's core. It was a weapon unlike anything humanity had ever seen before, and it was their only chance at survival. Earth's most brilliant minds, despite the constant alien interference, had created a device that could draw on the planet's natural energy and transform it into a weapon of unimaginable power. But as the weapon was being prepared for activation, the alien mocking grew louder. They knew that Earth was trying to fight back. The voice from the stars grew even more condescending. "Your attempt is futile. You cannot fight what you cannot even comprehend. You cannot challenge us. You will never be more than ants beneath our feet," it said. The mocking didn't stop. Instead, it escalated. The aliens made it clear that Earth's attempts to fight were useless. They continued to send powerful storms to destroy Earth's last strongholds, laughing as the planet's great cities crumbled. But this time something changed. Humanity had reached its breaking point. The mockery had pushed them to the edge, and now there was nothing left to do but to fight with everything they had. The weapon was ready. The Earth's core had been tapped into, and humanity's last hope was in their hands. The weapon was capable of harnessing energy in a way that could stop the alien fleet and send a message to the invaders. It was the last card they had to play, but the question remained: would it be enough? Would this weapon truly be able to turn the tide? Or would it only bring more destruction, as the aliens predicted? As the countdown began, humanity braced itself. They were no longer the passive victims in this cosmic drama. This was their final stand, and they were about to show the universe that no matter how small they seemed, they would never back down from a fight. And deep down, in the hearts of every human who had been humiliated, something powerful began to rise. The mocking had gone on for too long, and now it was time for Earth to answer back. As the weapon hummed to life, the air was thick with anticipation. The world had never been more unified. All the nations that once competed against each other now worked together, united by one single purpose: to fight back against the invaders who had mocked and torn their world apart. There was no longer any room for division or doubt. This was humanity's moment, their final chance to show the universe that they were more than just helpless bystanders in their own destruction. The alien message had been clear. Earth was a joke, a broken primitive world that had no place in the galaxy. But the people of Earth, scarred and battered from weeks of mocking, had something the aliens didn't expect: resilience. They may have been small in the eyes of the galaxy, but humanity had something powerful within them: their will to survive, to fight for their home, their families, and their future. Across the globe, from the highest government officials to the most ordinary citizens, people watched as the final preparations were made. The weapon, which had once seemed like a mere hope, was now their only lifeline. The scientists had worked tirelessly to build it, harnessing the very energy of the Earth's core. The machine was enormous, a towering structure of cables and metal that reached deep into the ground, tapping into the planet's raw power. It was the only chance they had. But as the countdown continued, doubts crept in. Would this weapon even work? Could it really stop the aliens? No one knew for sure, but they had no other choice. The aliens, of course, were watching. They had been keeping a close eye on Earth's every move. They could feel the change, the shift in humanity's energy, and they were amused. The mocking voice echoed again, cold and condescending. "Is this your answer? A weapon? How pathetic. Do you truly think that such primitive technology can challenge us?" But Earth's leaders, standing in their control rooms, didn't flinch. They had come too far to be swayed by the aliens' mockery. They had their weapon. They had their unity. And they were about to make their stand. The world held its breath as the final seconds ticked away. Across every nation, screens were tuned to the same broadcast. People from every corner of the planet stood together, watching as Earth prepared to strike back. For once, humanity wasn't divided by borders or differences. They were all united in the fight for their home. As the countdown reached 0, the weapon activated with a low, vibrating hum that rattled the air. The ground shook, and for a moment it felt like the Earth itself was alive. The energy from the planet's core surged through the machine, a massive wave of power ready to be unleashed. Suddenly, the sky above turned dark. The sun seemed to fade, as if the world itself was holding its breath. The weapon's energy built to a deafening roar, and then, with a blinding flash, a beam of pure energy shot into the sky. It reached higher and higher, cutting through the clouds, piercing the atmosphere. The beam was unlike anything the world had ever seen. A powerful surge of energy drawn directly from Earth itself. The aliens, who had been watching from their ships high above, finally took notice. The mocking voice stopped, replaced by a tense silence. They had underestimated humanity. For the first time, they realized that the planet they had mocked had the power to strike back. The energy beam slammed into the alien ships with a force so intense, it shook the stars themselves. The sky lit up with explosions, bright flashes of light and color as the alien vessels were hit one by one. It was a sight the world had never seen before, Earth's raw power unleashed in a way that seemed almost mythical. The aliens had no time to react. Their shields, once impervious, cracked under the force of the energy. Their ships began to crumble and burn in the sky. Earth had struck back, but the battle was far from over. The alien fleet, although severely damaged, was not yet defeated. They retaliated, sending massive waves of energy towards Earth in a desperate attempt to stop the counterattack. The world braced itself. The ground trembled as the alien forces pushed forward with everything they had. The weapon, though powerful, could only do so much. Humanity's response had been fierce, but they still faced a formidable enemy. As the skies rained destruction, it became clear that Earth's fight was only beginning. The aliens would not give up so easily, and their mocking was replaced by the cold certainty that they would not be easily defeated. But Earth was not ready to back down. The weapon had been their first strike, but it wouldn't be their last. Humanity had learned a hard lesson over the past few weeks. Never underestimate the power of determination. The destruction they had seen, the storms and chaos, had not broken them. If anything, it had made them stronger. And now, with the weapon activated and the aliens retreating, Earth's people began to regroup. They knew that the fight wasn't over. This was only the beginning of a war that would determine the fate of their planet. But there was a fire in their hearts now, a fire that had been kindled by the aliens' mockery and stoked by the burning desire to protect what was theirs. The battle for Earth had just begun. As the aliens retreated, their ships limping through space, the people of Earth looked up at the skies. For the first time in weeks, they felt a flicker of hope. They had taken the first step. And no matter how much the universe tried to mock them, humanity had proven something crucial. They were not weak, and they were not going to go down without a fight. The silence that followed the beam's eruption into the sky was deafening. Earth had never felt such a tense stillness. It was as though the planet itself held its breath, waiting to see if their strike would be enough. The aliens had retreated, though not without a fight, but Earth's counterattack had not yet tipped the scales in their favor. The battle was far from over, and now the real test began. The sky, once illuminated by the fiery beam, now lay dark, thick with the smoke and debris of burning alien ships. But the silence didn't last long. A low hum vibrated through the air, followed by a roar so deep it could be felt in the bones. The aliens had regrouped, and they were coming back for round 2. This time, they would not take humanity lightly. The weapon had proven to be more than just a spark of hope. It was a declaration, a testament to humanity's refusal to bow down. But as the alien ships reappeared, their massive forms blotting out the stars, the reality of the situation became clear. They had underestimated Earth's will, but they were now determined to crush it. They came in waves, faster, stronger, and more aggressive than before. Their weapons, more refined, began to rain down on Earth's cities, targeting vital infrastructure and military strongholds. The aliens had learned their lesson. They knew the planet's weaknesses, and they were not going to give humanity another chance to retaliate. It was clear that the aliens didn't care about diplomacy, about making peace. They wanted to break the spirit of the people, and they were willing to burn Earth to the ground to do it. But Earth was not without its defenses. The weapon, still functioning but overloaded from the previous blast, hummed back to life. It was now a beacon of humanity's resistance, a signal to the invaders that they had not given up. The weapon fired once again, and this time, it was even more powerful. Drawing on every scrap of energy from Earth's core, a pulse of raw power shot into the sky, lighting up the atmosphere like a second sun. The alien ships were unprepared for this second blast. The shockwave of energy sent ripples through the alien fleet, and for the first time they faltered. Their ships, some of the largest and most advanced in the galaxy, buckled under the intensity of the Earth's might. Explosions erupted across their ranks, ships falling from the sky in pieces. It was a sight so magnificent that humanity, despite their fear, couldn't help but watch in awe. They were fighting back, but it was not enough. Not yet. The aliens, now enraged, regrouped with cold precision. Their ships, once scattered and vulnerable, came together in perfect formation. The largest of their fleet, a colossal mothership that had remained in the background, now loomed over Earth like a monstrous shadow. It unleashed a barrage of firepower that shook the planet itself. The force of the aliens' retaliation was devastating. The ground trembled under the sheer weight of the attack, and cities were reduced to rubble within seconds. Despite the destruction, there was no panic. Humanity had been pushed beyond fear. They had tasted the bitter sting of helplessness, and now they had discovered something deeper, something stronger: anger, resolve. The weapon was the heart of their retaliation, but it was not their only strength. Earth had one final trick left to play, one final act of defiance. Across the globe, new alliances were formed. Nations that had once kept to themselves now worked together with a single-minded purpose. The remnants of Earth's military forces, battered but not broken, began to rally. People were no longer just fighting for survival. They were fighting for each other, for their future, for their planet. The call for unity had gone out, and humanity had responded. As the alien mothership hovered above, preparing for its final assault, humanity had one last chance. They could either fall into the depths of despair and allow Earth to be wiped out, or they could rise, and rise they did. From the ruins of the major cities, humanity began to fight back with everything they had. The final piece of their defense plan had been in motion all along, an unexpected alliance with Earth's best minds, engineers, and soldiers working in secret to develop new forms of counter-technology. Hidden under mountains and deep in underground bunkers, weapons had been constructed. Now they were ready. Humanity's final act of defiance was more than just a weapon. It was a message. It was a way of showing the aliens that Earth was not just a planet, it was a living, breathing force. Humanity had created a defense system that could now directly target the mothership itself. It wasn't a perfect plan. It was risky, but the alternative was certain extinction. As the alien forces closed in, ready to destroy everything in their path, Earth made its move. The first wave of counterattacks launched, breaking through the alien shields with precision. The mothership shuddered under the onslaught. The aliens were stunned. They had expected the humans to fall apart under the pressure, but Earth's wrath had been building for years, and now it was fully unleashed. The ground shook once more, but this time it was the aliens who were retreating. The war was far from over, but humanity had taken the first step in turning the tide. The enemy was wounded, faltering, and as Earth's last weapon hit the alien mothership with a final shattering blow, the invaders realized something they had never anticipated. Earth would never be an easy target again. As the smoke cleared and the alien ships began to fall from the sky, humanity stood on the edge of something both terrifying and magnificent. The battle for Earth had only just begun, but they had proven something important. The sky had caught fire, but so had their spirits. No matter how vast the universe was, Earth had shown that they would fight for their place in it. The final explosion that rocked the alien mothership sent a shockwave through the entire atmosphere, a violent tremor that could be felt all over the planet. The once mighty alien fleet, which had loomed over Earth like an unstoppable force, now crumbled in the wake of humanity's defiance. The massive ships that had terrorized the skies fell like broken titans, their hulls burning as they plummeted to the surface. The destruction was beautiful in its raw power, a testament to Earth's wrath and the indomitable will of its people. But the aftermath was not what anyone had expected. The skies were no longer filled with alien ships, and the mocking voice that had tormented Earth for so long had fallen silent. The world watched in stunned silence as the last of the alien invaders fell from the sky, their once impenetrable technology shattered and burning. The sound of Earth's victory echoed through the silence, but it was not the sound of celebration. It was the sound of uncertainty, of fear, and of survival. Humanity had won, yes, but at what cost? The cities that had once been bustling hubs of life now lay in ruin. The air was thick with smoke, and the Earth itself seemed to have been scarred by the battle. The weapon that had delivered the final blow had drained Earth's resources to the brink. The planet was battered, its systems stretched to their limits. The survivors, though triumphant, were now faced with the daunting task of rebuilding. In the wake of the battle, a strange quiet had fallen over the planet. The skies that had once been filled with alien ships now seemed empty, hollow. Humanity had won, but there was a haunting emptiness that lingered in the air, as if the victory had come at a cost too great to truly celebrate. In the cities, the survivors slowly began to emerge from their shelters. Faces once filled with terror now looked towards the horizon with a strange mix of relief and uncertainty. They had done it. They had defended their home. But the question remained. What now? Governments, once divided and ineffective in the face of the alien threat, now found themselves united in their effort to rebuild. The scars left by the battle were deep, and there was no ignoring the damage done to the planet. Entire ecosystems had been destroyed, cities flattened, and millions of lives had been lost. But there was a collective resolve that had not existed before. Humanity had been tested, and they had survived. Now, they would rebuild. Across the world, the reconstruction efforts began. People worked side by side, their differences forgotten as they toiled to repair the damage. The sense of unity, born from the chaos of the alien invasion, became the foundation upon which the future would be built. There were no more divisions, no more borders between nations. The world had come together in the face of extinction, and now it was time to rebuild what had been lost. But the scars of war would not disappear so easily. The weapon that had saved humanity had also taken a toll on the planet. The Earth trembled with aftershocks of the powerful energy unleashed during the final battle. Natural disasters, though not as violent as the alien-caused storms, continued to plague the planet. Earth's resources were depleted, and recovery would be slow. The cost of victory was immense, and the future was uncertain. Still, humanity had emerged stronger. The people who had once been mocked, who had once believed they were nothing more than an insignificant speck in the vastness of the universe, had proven that they were capable of greatness. Earth's victory was not just about defeating the aliens. It was about showing the universe that humanity would not be easily silenced, that they had the strength to rise up and defend their world no matter the odds, and the universe was watching. Though the alien invaders had been defeated, their message remained clear in the minds of every human who had fought for Earth. They were not alone. The universe, vast and filled with unimaginable power, had its eyes on Earth. What would come next? Would Earth's victory be enough to secure its place in the stars, or would other forces take notice of humanity's newfound strength and decide that the planet was a prize worth taking? As the dust settled, one thing became clear. Earth's fight was not over. The victory over the aliens was just the beginning of a new chapter in human history. The planet had proven that it could stand against the greatest forces the universe had to offer. Now, humanity faced the daunting task of ensuring that this victory was not just a fleeting moment in time, but the start of a new era. In the days that followed, the leaders of Earth gathered to discuss the future. With the alien threat vanquished, what came next? The reconstruction efforts would take years, perhaps decades, but there was something else, something more profound on the horizon. The victory had awakened something deep within humanity. The people who had once cowered in fear, who had allowed themselves to be mocked and ridiculed, now stood united. They had a new purpose, a new drive to explore what lay beyond their world. The question that had once seemed so distant now hung in the air, unspoken but understood. What would humanity do now that it had proven its strength? As the sun rose over a war-torn Earth, a new chapter began. Humanity had taken its first step into the unknown, not as a helpless species but as a force to be reckoned with. The aliens had learned that Earth was not a planet to be mocked, and soon the rest of the galaxy would learn it too. The universe had watched as Earth fought and bled, and now, Earth would rise to meet whatever came next, no longer just a speck in the stars but a force that would shape the future of the galaxy. The battle was over, but the journey had only just begun.